afternoon, students. I am Geeta Gangadharan, Associate Professor of English, Maharani's Arts College for Women, Mysore. Today, we are going to discuss the poem Strange Meeting by Wilfred Owen. The poem is prescribed for the 5th semester optional English students of the University of Mysore. Strange Meeting is a war poem written by the British poet Wilfred Owen. This poem was written in 1918 when the poet was serving as a soldier in the First World War. However, the poem was published in 1919 posthumously in Edith Sitwell's anthology titled Wheels, an anthology of verse. A year later, the poem was published in Siegfried Sasson's collection of Owen's poems. The title of the poem is taken from Shelley's work, The Revolt of Islam. The poem Strange Meeting does not celebrate the brave and heroic deeds of war. On the contrary, the poem is a moving critique of war. Owen's first-hand experience of the horrors and brutality of war finds expression in this poem. The futility of war is brought out very effectively when the second soldier says, "I am the enemy you killed, my friend. Let us sleep now." The poem is an imaginary dialogue between two soldiers, their chance encounter in hell and their exchange of thoughts is the substance of the poem. Now let's read the poem before we proceed to analyze it. Follow the lines carefully. Strange Meeting, Wilfred Owen. It seemed that out of battle I escaped down some profound, dull tunnel, long since scooped through granites which titanic wars had groined. Yet also their encumbered sleepers groaned, too fast in thought or death to be disturbed. Then, as I propped them, one sprang up and stared with piteous recognition in fixed eyes, lifting distressful hands as if to bless. And by his smell I knew that sullen hall. By his dead smile I knew we stood in hell. With 1,000 fears that vision's face was grained, yet no blood reached there from the upper ground, and no guns thumped or down the flues made moan. "Strange friend," I said, "here is no cause to mourn." "None," said the other, "save the undone years, the hopelessness. Whatever hope is yours was my life also. I went hunting wild after the wildest beauty in the world, which lies not calm in eyes or braided hair, but mocks the steady running of the hour. And if it grieves, grieves richlier than here, for by my glee might many men have laughed, and of my weeping something had been left, which must die now. I mean, the truth untold, the pity of war." These lines are extremely important from the point of view of your examination. The pity of war, the pity war disdained. Now, men will go content with what we spoiled, or discontent boil bloody and be spilled. They will be swift with swiftness of the tigress. None will break ranks though nations struck from progress. Courage was mine and I had mystery. Wisdom was mine and I had mastery. To miss the march of this retreating world into vain citadels that are not walled. Then, when much blood had clogged their chariot wheels, I would go up and wash them from sweet wells, even with truths that lie too deep for taint. I would have poured my spirit without stint, but not through wounds, not on the cess of war. For heads of men have blood where no wounds were. I am the enemy you killed, my friend. I knew you in this dark, for you so frowned yesterday through me as you jabbed and killed. I parried, but my hands were loath and cold. Let us sleep now. Now I hope you have followed at least a few lines from the poem. Obviously the poet is trying to talk about the horrors of war and how it takes away lives for nothing. Now let us go in detail from the beginning of the poem and see what exactly the poet is trying to communicate. The speaker of the poem, who is himself a soldier, seems to have escaped from a battle and fallen down through some profound and dull tunnel, deep and dark tunnel, maybe a tunnel dug up for the purpose of war long ago. A tunnel that is scooped out or carved through granites as a result of gigantic wars, titanic wars. The fact that the narrator, the soldier speaker, escapes into hell, note use of the word escapes, adds to the irony of the poem. The narrator escapes into hell. Hell is a place where one is doomed to be as a punishment for wrongdoing in earthly life. However, ironically, here the soldier is deemed to have escaped into hell from the battlefield. In the next part of the poem, the speaker notices the others who are already in hell. They are groaning. They seem to be lost in thought, or they are in deep sleep to be disturbed or woken up by anyone. However, as the speaker prodded them, one dead person sprang up and stared at him with piteous recognition in his eyes. He lifted his hands as though he was about to bless the speaker. His hands were distressful, perhaps because there is no life energy, or perhaps there is no vitality in his hands. By the dead smile or the lifeless smile on the face of the person, the speaker understands that he stood in hell. Notice that despite being in hell, the speaker is able to smile. So first we noticed that he uses the word escape, escaped from the battlefield to hell. Now he says, by the smile on the face of the other soldier in hell, he understood that he was standing in hell. Moving on, we noticed that a thousand fears were ingrained on the face of the vision. What is the vision that the poet is talking about? Obviously, the reference is to the dead soldier who is already in hell before him. Though the violence in the battlefield above had not reached or penetrated into hell, that is, he says, no gunshots are heard, no flues or decks for smoke or gas, and no blood. 1,000 tears were visible on the face of the vision. So what is he trying to say? From the upper ground, that is from the battlefield to the hell, there seems to have reached no act of violence. No act of violence has reached hell from the upper ground, that is from the battlefield. That is why he says no gunshots heard, no flues or deaths, no blood. Yet one could see that 1,000 tears were on the face of the vision. According to the speaker, when there was no sign of violence as in the battlefield, there was no cause to mourn in hell. The vision agrees. He adds that except the undone years or the lost years or the years that have been cut off from his probable life and the hopelessness pertaining to them, there was nothing to worry about or cry for. The second soldier's sense of loss, born out of the devastations caused by the war, is the essence of the poem. Is the poet, that is the speaker, the first speaker of the poem, suggesting once again to his readers that the battlefield with its brutalities is much worse than the supposedly tormenting experiences in hell? And why have these soldiers been sent to hell after death is a question that automatically comes to our minds. Far from the popular belief that a soldier who dies in war is a martyr and therefore cannot be an inmate of hell for all his sacrifices for his motherland, here the soldier is damned for eternity in purgatory. Look at the irony. The soldier is not martyred. The soldier is not remembered for his sacrifices, but the soldier is eternally damned to be in purgatory. As students of literature, we need to ponder over the implications. The soldiers may belong to different nationalities, but their hopes and dreams as human beings, their emotions are the same. Whatever hope is yours was my life also. As a young man, he went in search of the wildest beauty in this world. He does not find this beauty in the bountiful nature or in the beauty of a woman. Perhaps, like other young men, he too had the sense of invincibility, the same untamed drive of a young man who is ready to conquer everything, who does not think of time as a limitation. There seems to be plenty of it at his disposal, but mocks the steady running of the hour. This search for the wildest beauty may also be a reference to the undying patriotic spirit of the young soldiers ready to lay down their lives for the sake of their nations. In their youthful spirit, they are not conscious of the repercussions of war. The glory of war has been ingrained so deeply into them that they fail to realize the unmitigated potential for destruction involved in these wars. No one ever achieves or gains anything from a war. The losses far outweigh the gains, if any, yet wars continue. Had the second soldier lived on, he would have been the cause of joy of many men. The sorrow that he was destined to endure during his lifetime was also cut short by the war just as much as the joys. At the end of every war, some men will see the spoils of war and rejoice because the spoils that they witness mean victory to them, while other men will seek vengeance and their blood will boil because of the large scale destruction that they witness and will therefore retaliate with the speed of a tigress. Pay attention to those lines. He says, now men will go content with what we spoiled, or discontent, boil bloody, and be spilled. They will be swift with swiftness of the tigress. He says that his life has been cut short before he could share the truth with the world, the truth untold, the truth that he came into contact with only in the battlefield. The pity of war, the pity war distilled. He did not get an opportunity to share this bitter truth with the people because he was killed in the war. He never got a chance to come back from the battlefield so that he could share the experiences. Wars are fought to build empires, to extend boundaries, but at the end there is no gain. In their aggression and thirst for blood, the warring nations never realize the enormity of the devastations caused by them. Hence, they will not break ranks, revolt, and change their line of thought and action in order to establish peace. Despite his wisdom, ability, courage, etc., the speaker regrets that he failed to warn the warmongers, the power-hungry world, that their intoxication with power leads them nowhere. If anything, it leads not to glory and progress, but to decline and deterioration in every walk of life. He says that the retreating world is marching into citadels, fortresses that are not walled. Pay attention, citadels that are not walled. The citadels, therefore, cannot offer security. The warring nations are retreating into an era, a period which offers no security, no protection or hope. What then is the outcome of these bloodthirsty wars? The citadels, we are informed, are vain. Metaphorically, vain citadels may be a reference to the seamless prejudices that are woven into every nation's psyche. Wars are fought relentlessly, either in the name of extension of boundaries or in the name of baseless and irrational beliefs and prejudices. Far from leading the world forward, wars take us many steps backward each time. What then is the resultant gain of perpetuating wars? Who benefits? None. Lives of millions of people are wasted, sacrificed at the altar of the ego of a few people in whose hands absolute power rests. The wheels of the chariot used in war grind to a halt in the blood that has been spilled. The second soldier wishes to clean the clogged wheels with water from sweet wells. The blood-clogged wheels will be washed by the pure truth, the untold truth of the pity that war distilled. The soldier here is offering his life as a sacrifice for the sake of humanity. His life is being offered as a sacrifice for the sake of humanity, hoping that his sacrifice will awaken them, will sensitize them to the horrors of war, and will perhaps teach humanity to put an end to the inhuman act of war, and thus pave way to progress and peace. His sacrifice, the soldier's sacrifice, reminds the readers of the crucifixion, of the sacrifice of Jesus Christ to redeem the world. Given a chance, the soldier would have poured out his spirit, but not through wounds, not on the cess of war. We notice that the soldier intensely wishes that he could share the untold truth, the truth about the horrors of war with his own people. Even when there are no casualties in a war, which is practically impossible, the soldiers survive the battle. The unseen wounds they sustain are many. It takes years to heal the wounds. The families, the kith and kin of these soldiers, martyred or otherwise, are also victims of the war. Their injuries are far deeper than the visible wounds they sustained. The soldier speaker rightly concludes, "Foreheads of men have bled where no wounds were." That's a very important line in our understanding of the poem. Foreheads of men have bled where no wounds were. Whether or not there are wounds, foreheads of men have bled, because the wounds are just not external, the wounds are just not the visible ones. There are very deep and invisible wounds caused by wars. Hence the paradoxical declaration of the second soldier, "I am the enemy, you killed my friend," and his appeal, "Let us sleep now." Note that there is no resentment between the two soldiers. They are enemy soldiers, but when they meet in hell, enemies turn into friends. The second soldier could recognize his adversary even in the dark because of the frown on his forehead, which was there even when he jabbed him, pierced and killed him. He parried in an attempt to save himself from being killed, but it was of no avail. His hands were loath and cold, symbolizing death, eternal sleep. As students of literature, you must read other war poems, some of Wilfred Owen's poems and also of other poets. You may compare this poem, Strange Meeting, with Hardy's poem, The Man He Killed. Hardy wrote this poem in the year 1902 after the Second Boer War ended. I'll read the poem. It's a very short one and an engaging one. The Man He Killed by Thomas Hardy. Had he and I but met by some old ancient inn, we should have sat us down to write many an epoch, but ranged as infantry and staring face to face, I shot at him as he at me and killed him in his place. I shot him dead because he was my foe. Just so, my foe, of course he was, that's clear enough, although. Now you can see he has to ensure himself, make himself believe that the other soldier was his enemy. That is why he has to repeatedly use the word because he was my foe. Then he also says, my foe, of course he was. He thought he would enlist perhaps offhand, like, just as I was out of work, had sold his traps, no other reason why. Observe this. The poem is suggesting that no one becomes a soldier out of his own choice. It is due to compulsions because he has to take care of his family. He is out of work. He needs some work. Therefore, he must have enlisted. No other reason why. Yes, quaint and curious warriors. Hadi certainly is not romanticizing war. You shoot a fellow down, you would treat, if met were any bars or help to half a crown. So instead of meeting in the battlefield, if two soldiers, enemy soldiers, if they had met elsewhere in a bar or somewhere else, they would have treated one another. They would have shared a drink together. They would have spent time together. So in other words, there is no enmity as such, apart from the fact that they represent two enemy nations. That's it. Let us all hope for and work towards a world without wars, because as students of literature, when we read such poems, we must understand that it is in the interest of every human being that the world stops waging wars. Let us work towards a world where peaceful coexistence is possible. Let us internalize the ancient philosophy of this nation, Vasudhaiva Kudumbakam. The world is one family. Thank you.